Are you getting ready to hire a caregiver for your loved ones? Stick around, we have 5 things you should know.
Welcome to Senior Care Made Simple, an elder care podcast, your guide to navigating home health care with confidence. Hosted by Andrea Albertini, founder and CEO of Horizon Care Services, an industry leader in private duty home care in South Florida. To learn more, visit horizoncareservices.com.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I am here today with Doris Muscarella, and I am Andrea Albertini, the host of Senior Care Made Simple podcast. Good morning, Doris.
Good morning. Happy to be here today.
Actually, Doris, one of the things that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago is talking about when you need to hire a caregiver for your loved ones. And as you know, you have a caregiver part-time for your mother, besides of you and your sister being able to help her. So today we have a very amazing special guest that we actually pull her out of her office to talk about it is our Rebecca Stravakas. She is the COO of the Horizon Care Services brand. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, Rebecca.
Good morning.
Rebecca, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You've been here many years, so give us a little background about that.
Sure. I'm a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for over 35 years. I've been here at Horizon for 8 years. I have many facets of background in nursing, from acute care to long-term care to senior living to home health.
Rebecca, I apologize for dragging you out of your office in the middle of orientation. We have just something very special to share because a lot of you listeners are not in healthcare. So when your parents start needing care, so mom is declining or dad's declining, maybe from either a memory loss, a cognitive problem, or either just their function. They can't drive anymore. They forget to take their medication. Maybe they're not eating well and so on. So we're here to talk about the process that we go through with Horizon Care Services, which is the private duty agency that I own in Palm Beach County. And we wanted Rebecca to kind of go over and share the process that the agency takes, especially ours, to hire a caregiver.
Well, I'm grateful to be here. I think this is a very important topic. First and foremost, making sure that the caregiver has the proper training and the proper education to be able to provide the care that you expect your loved one to have would be my first goal. Second of all, making sure they have all the continuing education credits kept up to date, as our medical field is constantly forever changing with new modern technology. So making sure they have the proper training, making sure that they have a level 2 background screening, making sure all of that is done. Unfortunately, a lot of people do go out and hire private caregivers and do not go through a company, which I don't think that they understand the logistics or the problems that can create for them because they don't have the proper training, they don't have the background, they're not dependable or reliable, they don't have anybody who holds them accountable, and unfortunately, they befriend their loved ones, and sometimes it can turn into very bad outcomes.
You know, that's called the caregiver nightmare. And I don't know about, if you get calls after the fact that they've had a nightmare with a caregiver and they're here now backpedaling, trying to get somebody qualified with credentials and stuff, that it is so important. So I don't know, in your experience, if you've had people calling you because of that.
Over my 35 years, it's sad to say I've had it more than one occasion where people have hired private caregivers and have embezzled them out of lots of money. And so that's why I encourage anybody. I understand that it may be more costly to go through a company, and that's why a lot of people hesitate. However, companies take a lot of diligence and time and invest money to make sure the people we're sending in your home are qualified, reliable, dependable, and safe to be in your loved one's home.
It's not that much more money. In the beginning, maybe, but then again, you're going to be relying on one person. So you may start paying less money to that particular person, but then you're going to end up paying more. Why? Because that caregiver may not show up that day. Who's going to be liable? Your mom is going to be alone. Your dad's going to be alone, right? So you have that problem. And then because that caregiver thinks that you rely on her, all of a sudden she's going to start charging you double. Oh, I can't work for that much money. You got to pay me more. Oh, I need money for gas. I need more money for this. Oh, my car broke down. I need you to help me fix my car. So it may cost you a little less in the beginning by not hiring an agency, but it will cost you more because it can cost you everything you have. So that to me fires me up. You know about that, Doris?
I can hear that.
I mean, that makes me crazy, right?
Yes.
And Rebecca, we had plenty of those cases before.
The most recent one was another terrible situation where a vulnerable client hired a private duty caregiver who then referred her friend to another friend. So eventually she had 6 private caregivers working for her. She was totally dependent on them for her ADLs as far as transferring mobility. They wouldn't show up. In the meanwhile, they befriended her. One exploited her for $8,000 and another one had her con to open up a business with them and exploited her for $250,000.
That's scary. That is very scary.
That's
Caregiver
very scary.
nightmares. Here we go again. Caregiver nightmares.
Yeah. So unfortunately that they exploited her and now her income is very upside down. And we had to get an elder law attorney involved to help her apply for Medicaid. And now she is stuck in a Medicaid facility because her financial life has changed dramatically.
Okay, let me ask. This is my first time I'm venturing out to find a caregiver. What are the 5 things I need? They must be a must in looking for a caregiver, Rebecca.
The first thing you need to do is understand what your needs are of your loved one. What are the services that they need help with? What assistance do they need? Do they need somebody who's non-skilled just to help them with their activities of daily living? Perhaps they need somebody who's skilled, who has more training to help them with their medical needs. That would be your first step.
Okay, so what if I don't know exactly? Like, okay, I'm going to put an example. My mother has dementia. And I don't know exactly. I mean, I'm not with her 24/7. Do you assess what their needs are when if let's say I call Horizon Care Services, do you come and assess exactly what they need based on her, diagnosis?
Yes, we certainly do. There are some companies that will go out and do a free assessment to help you determine what the needs are, but that's a case-by-case basis.
Okay, great. And, let's say I want to hire an agency. What is the right hiring path to hire an agency?
Well, the most important and first step would be making sure you're selecting the proper agency. So that would take some research on your part. Definitely, I suggest going onto the internet and researching that company. You want to look for longevity. You want to look at their ratings with the Agency for Healthcare. You want to certainly look at their Google reviews from past patients and family members. And that's where I would start to make sure you vet, to make sure you find the proper company.
So does that company take care of like the payroll, the hiring, in case, let's say that caregiver didn't work out and 2 months later I need to find somebody else? The agency handles everything?
Correct. So part of our hiring process in every agency's hiring process is that they have to do a complete background screening. They make sure their caregivers have the proper liability insurance, their continuing education credits done. So all of that's handled by the agency, making sure the liability insurance, the payroll's done appropriately, the timesheets are turned in, employment taxes, all of that stuff is handled by the agency.
What do you see as red flags that we should know about?
Well, the Agency for Healthcare does do a inspection and a survey on all companies that is readily accessible on the internet to anybody, any consumer. that would be my first step, is making sure that if they have deficiencies on their survey, there may be a problem with the company. Second of all is definitely the longevity. A lot of companies will open up their door, very short-lived, maybe here 6 months or a year. They're not in it for the long term. So finding a long-term agency that's been in the business, that has great ratings and deficiency-free surveys is important.
Based on my background, I was in the legal field for many years. Lawsuits are public record. You could go online and check the Palm Beach, if you live in Palm Beach, courthouse, and see if there's any lawsuits filed against that particular agency. Would also be a red flag.
Correct.
And also, too, is every state has, their license for healthcare administration, right? Every state's different. So you literally can go into that site and look at the surveys, how many stars they have, how long they've been around. It's very important, to see the deficiency of the agency. And, we are very proud and lucky to be deficiency-free for 21 years, which is really unheard of. So thank you, Rebecca, for
Kudos.
My pleasure.
Yay, for
So I
doing
have
such a
another
great job.
question. My mother's Hispanic, and I see that part of the criteria in your checklist is a personality fit, patience, and communication. She doesn't speak English. So how do you handle this?
Well, as part of our intake, when we have a new client and family we're working with come on board, we ask many questions like that. What are they like? Do they speak English? Do they have a preference with their language? What do they like to do in their pastime? What do they need help with? And we will select the top caregivers to go out. Even if they're the best, sometimes they don't work. Personalities are all different. But if that's the case, it's not a problem. We'll just switch out that caregiver for another one, because personalities are very important, that they gel. That way they can work good together, build trust, and build a relationship.
And we also have a full-time recruiter.
Yes.
So we do get some interesting requests sometimes that we have to go through our recruiter to be able to find that person. When you are looking to hire someone or hire an agency, you just can't just put anybody in there to take care of your loved ones. You really need to get the right person, especially if your loved one is, getting a little bit of dementia, Alzheimer's, or they're getting a little confused for whatever reason. And you got to remember, we have a lot of cases where your loved ones refuse care. Oh, I don't need anybody. Next thing you know, 2 days later, they're in a hospital. Well, yes, you just broke your hips. So, it is so important that when you do look for an agency, make sure that they have the reputation of providing the level of care that your loved one deserves. It's very important.
So question for you, do you have an agreement or a contract that you use when you send somebody out? And explain that to me.
Yes, certainly. So we have a service agreement with the client or the client's family upon starting services. We also have an agreement with the caregivers that we send out to the home.
And one of the things that I want to mention that is very important, and this is another thing that fires me up a lot. A lot of people open home health agency to care for the seniors with bad intentions. And what's happening is some companies are having people sign the contract with a length of time. It could be a 6-month contract, 12-month contract. So if your loved ones, so let's say you don't want to use that agency anymore. Okay, you're going to have to pay that contract off. Just like your mother is you're renting, an apartment or something. So be very careful when you sign the contract. Make sure there's no length of time. You need to be able to cancel that agency at any time. So be very, very careful with that. The franchises are good on that stuff.
So it should have a cancellation clause.
Absolutely. And, my cancellation is just call us and say you don't need us anymore. That's my cancellation. And that's the way it should be. It is the ethical way to do business. The same way there's fraud going on and elderly abuse when you hire your own caregiver, it is the same thing when you hire the wrong agency. Be careful.
All right, take a break. Let's take a deep breath. We're going to call a firefighter next time Andrea gets upset. Thank you for listening. Very interesting caregiver nightmares.
Exactly. So thanks, Rebecca. Thank you, Doris, for coming again and join us in this awesome podcast. I hope this podcast is really giving you guys a lot of information that you should know. If any of you are interested in coming on the show and talk about anything and everything that's related to healthcare and seniors, please email us at seniorcaremade-simple-podcast@gmail.com. seniorcaremade-simple-podcast@gmail.com. Until next time, everybody, thanks so much for tuning in.
Senior Care Made Simple, an elder care podcast, has been brought to you by Horizon Care Services, your private duty choice in home care in South Florida. For more information on acquiring home care assistance, visit horizoncareservices.com.